You're listening to Systemic Era Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump's favorite song sanitizes decades of foreign policy failures, based on an article by Paul Roget-Loeb. The anthem that asks nothing, Patriotism as cover, Trump's Freedom 250 concert collapsed into a revealing little tableau, a shrinking lineup, Lee Greenwood, a tenor, military bands, and the girlfriend of Kash Patel. That is the whole picture in miniature. A political movement that claims national greatness keeps ending up with substitutes, props, and loyalists. The event was supposed to project power. Instead, it exposed how thin the spectacle has become. Who actually holds power? The real actor here is not Greenwood. It is Trump, using patriotic music as a loyalty ritual for his own authority. The article is strongest when it points out that this kind of patriotism is not about the country at all. It is a permission slip for leaders to do whatever they want, stripped of consequence, wrapped in a flag, and sold as reverence. That is the actual institutional function of the song in Republican politics. Reagan used it while accelerating inequality and union destruction. Trump uses it while cultivating a politics of dominance, grievance, and impunity. The melody changes less than the machine behind it. The useful emptiness. Greenwood's lyric treats freedom as a state of residence, not a condition that must be defended, expanded, or fairly distributed. That is the trick. If simply living here makes you free, then freedom requires nothing from power. It erases the question of who is being crushed, who is being targeted, and who is making the decisions. The article correctly refuses that sentimental fraud. It names the contradiction: support for dictators abroad, alignment with authoritarian men like Putin, Erdogan, and Mohammed bin Salman, and ICE agents snatching innocent people off American streets. The song's blank patriotism is not innocent. It is the emotional furniture of domination. Scapegoats in uniform. The story also catches a familiar misdirection. The anthem sanctifies soldiers, but it never asks whether the wars were necessary, who profited, or which leaders sent them there. That is not respect. It is alibi making. It turns sacrifice into moral insulation for the people who ordered the violence. The same pattern shows up in the ICE reference. The problem is not a few bad officers or insufficient training. The problem is the institution itself. ICE exists to turn state violence into routine administration. Abolish ICE. Anything less is just varnish on a coercive apparatus. There are other songs. The article's strongest move is to show that patriotic feeling does not have to be obedience. Waylon Jennings, Catherine Lee Bates, and Bruce Springsteen all offer something harder and more honest. Love of place bound to expectation, justice, and obligation. That is the divide Trump world cannot survive. Real patriotism does not flatter power. It measures it. That is why Greenwood's anthem is so useful to authoritarians. It asks the listener to feel proud without asking what the nation is doing in their name. It substitutes emotional certainty for civic judgment. It is patriotism with the moral circuitry removed. What this really reveals: this story is not about one concert, one singer, or one embarrassing event lineup. It is about how reactionary politics launders power through sentiment. When the right cannot produce competence, it produces ritual. When it cannot justify cruelty, it wraps cruelty in flags, hymns, and military pageantry. The deeper pattern is simple. Authoritarian politics need citizens who mistake affirmation for allegiance and allegiance for democracy. That is the bargain Trump keeps offering. The Democratic answer is not softer symbolism. It is naming the power structure directly, refusing the blank check, and treating justice as the price of any patriotism worth keeping. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Marcus, thanks for listening.